Today I'll be doing my project on Prohibition and the rise of Al Capone. So for the past few months I have been researching Prohibition, how it caused the growth of crime and corruption in America, the very thing it promised to eradicate. For my project, I decided to do a performance, a choice I now regret because I did not realize at the time that you were only allowed to have the actors of people who worked on the script. So now I'm standing here in a suit trying to do an Italian accent. So yeah, while talking for 10 minutes straight. So that's really fun. Okay, so I'm ready to begin in a moment. So there's like a timer or something.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Alphonse Gabriel Capone, but you can refer to me as Al Capone. And I'm here today because I'm supposed to give you a PSA on why crime is bad. But instead I'm going to give you my life story because reasons. I was born on January 17th, 1899 in Brooklyn, New York City. I first started my life of crime in a low gang of hoodlums. After a few years of messing around, I worked as a bouncer at a club for a few good years. My job was basically to make sure no lowlifes got in. If there was ever a scrap or something, I'd have to get involved. Though in one particular instance, a guy had a knife and he managed to cut me from up here all the way down to my cheek. And that's how I got the nickname Scarface. Never really liked that name. Then, in the year 1920, Prohibition became law, and for those of you that don't know, Prohibition was a movement that was created by groups of religious people and victims of domestic abuse. They basically thought that all crime in America was from alcohol. And the Prohibitionists had an argument up their sleeve that if we got rid of alcohol, all the crime linked to it would also disappear, like gambling and prostitution. But they got the whole thing wrong because in less than a year, I would be running all of Chicago. So Prohibition has made nothing but trouble for the government. But we'll move on to that later. Anyways, when Prohibition became law, I had got myself into some trouble and had to get me and my family out of Brooklyn. That is when Johnny Toriano gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. I would be his first lieutenant in his Prohibition racket. When the Prohibition law passed, America became dry, but that wasn't a problem for people in rural areas who could make their own alcohol by building stills. However, for people living in cities, they need someone to supply them, which is where I would come in. I don't really think what I was doing was wrong in my opinion because I'm like any other man. All I do is supply demand. Then after moving to Chicago a short time later, my old man passed away, leaving my brother as the head of the family, meaning he had to provide for our mother and 5 other siblings. But that is when I saw a golden opportunity. My brother worked as an accountant, and moving money around is a vital part of any organized crime syndicate. So I called my brother up and said, "Ralph, I think there's an opportunity here for us in Chicago to make enough money to take care of everyone. But I can't do it without you. You are the businessman." My brother would then be running more than 300 different businesses and did it all without a cell phone, fax machine, or computer. Later, when Toriano was shot 7 times in an assassination attempt, he told me that I was in charge of the business. That is when I started seeing serious money. In fact, I started to give back to the community a little bit. I did this by opening up some soup kitchens, and they were free. And 1,000 people were fed each day. Being a crime boss, however, came with a lot of problems. One problem came by the name of Bugs Moran, a rival crime boss. Now, Moran had been stealing some of my business, so I decided to have him whacked. Because in my experience, you get much further with a kind word and a gun than you get with a kind word alone. But before I could have bugs taken care of, I had made some preparations. First, I had my car renovated so it looked like a police car, and I also had some defenses added for protection. Here's a list of modifications that I made. The rear window dropped into the car, creating a huge black hole behind the back seat, suited for providing shooting at pursuing vehicles. A 90 horsepower LV V8 engine pushed the 800 pounds a day into speeds in excess of 70 miles per hour. Despite an extraordinarily boxy body that was far from streamlined, a ton and a half core inch steel plating hides behind normal body panels, inch thick windows. Cadillac's first constant mesh clashless transmission was a 3-speed manual to a 341 cubic inch engine with 200 pounds of torque, allowing the car to lug along a low speed in third gear. Just like Chicago's police car, the Caddy had flashing red lights behind the grille, an official police siren, black fenders, a green body, and a dash-mounted radio that could tune into police frequencies. After that, I had Machine Gun McGurn to carry out the hit. Warren's men didn't suspect a thing. Since my guys were dressed up as policemen, they assumed they were being victims of a raid. So they lined up against the wall with their hands in the air, but they didn't really expect to be riddled with more than 150 bullets. The only person to live long enough to speak to the authorities was Frank Gusenberg, who refused to name his killers, so the police had little evidence, and both McGurn and I had alibis and they couldn't touch us. The only problem, unfortunately, was that Bugs was not there. He had seen the police car pulling up and he left. The hit would then go down in history as the Valentine's Day Massacre. This event would cause the government to start cracking down on me until I was behind bars. In Chicago, 800 gangsters were killed in crime wars for the fight over alcohol production sales. A common trick among bootleggers was to counterfeit prescriptions and liquor licenses to gain access to alcohol. The most common practice was to import liquor from other countries aboard ships. Canada mostly. I honestly don't even know what street Canada is on. I swear to God, this is an actual quote. The river between Detroit and Canada was a thriving entry point. As way the overland method on the long border between the two countries. We also evaded authorities by building secret breweries with intricate security systems and lookouts. In addition to eluding the police, we also had to fend off mobsters who would try to steal our precious cargo for their own profit. We did, however, begin a natural controversy by selling adulterated liquor, resulted in countless deaths and poisonings. Bootlegging then grew into a vast illegal empire. My control went far beyond the mob with bribery of law enforcement officials, politicians, congressmen, and governors. My operation showed how effective the mob could be at spreading corruption. The corruption among agents was so prevalent that President Warren G. Harding commented on in his State of the Union address in 1922. Even with all the corruption, there was still a good handful of people trying to get me locked away. I had even begun to get some attention from the press, but soon my time would come to an end because I had made one grave mistake. That was I did not pay taxes. And I had to go to court. I thought I would get off scot-free because I had bribed the judges and the jurors. But there was a sudden change in schedule and I had to go to court with no bribed jurors or judge. So I would then be convicted for 3 felonies and 2 misdemeanors for failure to pay income tax. I was then sent to the U.S. Penitentiary in Atlanta, but people then realized I had special treatment arranged for my arrival. I was then transferred to Alcatraz, which gave me a lot to think of. That's when I realized that George Washington was a penguin who learned how to fly by selling Kurt the Frog lizard pudding. That was a joke to show that while in prison, Al Capone lost his mind due to the fact that syphilis had gotten to his brain and, messed it up. So after that, he was released for good behavior, where a doctor in Baltimore confirmed that Al basically had the brain of a 12-year-old. So obviously he could not return to his life of crime, and he would live out the rest of his days in Florida, where he coped with multiple health issues. He died in 1947 at age 48. Al Capone took a stand by selling alcohol during Prohibition, showing prohibitionists that their plans would never work. And that point was proven right when Prohibition ended in 1993, when Congress made plans to repeal the 18th Amendment. And now it is legal for anyone over the age of 21 to drink in the United States of America. Al also took a stand against the US government because he managed to avoid the government for multiple years. Even when he was convicted, he was not charged for many of the violent crimes he committed. He was only charged with small crimes. Also, he took a stand against multiple rival mobsters and bootleggers by having them killed or retired. Al Capone also connects to the theme because he helped many poor families that needed food by setting up soup kitchens. Al Capone also connects to the theme because if he had not taken a stand against the government during Prohibition, we would not know his name today. That's it.